All right, so everybody should have just got that recording now notification. But again, everybody, I am Melanie Wong, and I will be facilitating today's 10 cents a meal meeting. We are joined by Wendy Crowley from MDE, and I will introduce her in just a sec. But I do want to give a quick introduction to my colleague, Amanda Brazel. Amanda is joining us with the 10 cents a meal team here at Groundwork Center as our new policy engagement specialist. She has a background in sustainable ag and sustainable agriculture, and she is also going to be helping with some of our legislative education and really getting into the more policy side of work for 10 cents a meal. So Amanda, I'll turn it over to you if you want to say a couple of words.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Brazel, and I just recently joined Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities as the Policy and Engagement Specialist for 10 cents a meal. So as Melanie explained, I'll be doing a little bit of work in the legislative world to make sure that this program gets the attention that it definitely deserves. And then on the other side of things, I will be reaching out to different food service directors and other folks that are here. So a lot of all of you, just to get to know you and understand a little bit more about how 10 cents has been implemented with you and what kinds of things you would be looking for in order to continue to implement it in the future. So be on the lookout for if you see something pop up that has my name on it, please take a look at it. It's likely a good question.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amanda. And of course, our colleague with the Michigan Department of Education Farm to Program Consultant, Wendy Crowley, who will be going through a demo of the 10 cents a meal application. We'll have time to talk about some resources that will be posted soon and where those will be located, some training that's available, and of course, some question and answer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Wendy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Crowley. I'm the Farm to Program Consultant with MDE. I see a lot of familiar names. I've met a lot of you. Last year was the first year that we had the resources for a program consultant. And so I spent a lot of time working on, foundational and organizational kinds of things. And this year, my goal is to spend a lot more time in the field working on, meeting you and doing other things. I had a little bit of an issue. This morning I logged into our test environment and I needed to have it unlocked. I need just a second. Okay, so the updates that we have about the program, I'm working at this very moment to get the demo version of the application unlocked so that I can actually do the walkthrough for you in a few minutes. But I wanted to talk just a little bit about legislative changes that happened towards the end of last year that maybe aren't on everybody's radar. Two really important things happened with the legislation effective last program year and then also carrying forward to this program year. The most important being that meal counts are no longer required. So a grantee is no longer required to document the number of meals that contained 10 cents a meal qualifying produce. And also all of those produce items that you're purchasing don't have to be used directly in a reimbursable school meal. They can also be used for other related activities like taste testing or an apple crunch or a cucumber crunch or something like that. So what those two changes to the legislation do is streamline program reporting exponentially for grantees. So you literally buy qualifying produce, upload the invoice data into our system, and we reimburse you for half, up to the amount of your grant. We've also calculated what the maximum grant would be for all of our potential grantees based on 10 cents times every meal you served in the federal child nutrition program last year. So if you participate in the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program and the Child and Adult Care Food Program and the Summer Food Service Program, all of those meals added together, breakfast, lunch, suppers, snacks, times 10 cents, equals the maximum amount of a grant that you can be awarded. And that number is calculated and uploaded into the application already. So when you fill out your application on the budget page, it will say the maximum grant you're eligible for is, and it'll show that dollar amount. We plan to award the maximum amount of the grant to everyone this year, knowing that there are many grantees that will not even come close to spending that in their first year or even their second or third or fourth year, and that's okay. There's no penalty for not spending all of your grant amount. We just felt it would be easier to set that cap from the beginning so everybody knows what that maximum is. Then, going forward, that'll be a little bit different because the calculation that we're using is the 2020 school year, in which all of you served potentially a lot more meals than regular time. So, you should just be aware that we expect next year that grant max to kind of fluctuate depending on how different your meal counts were during the pandemic than they are, now. Okay, then if you want to.
We had just one question, Wendy, from Hannah Driscoll asking, even if you're new in the program.
So new to 10 cents or new to any child nutrition program?
And Hannah, if you'd like, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and just ask your question if that's easier.
She said new to any program.
So if you've never participated in a federal child nutrition program, then we would have to come up with an estimated grant. You still would qualify as long as you are currently participating in a child nutrition program. So what is the agency that you're with? A brand new daycare. Okay, so we would need to talk. You are still eligible as long as you are currently participating. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this application live. I sound very distracted, but they locked me out of the demo that I was trying to do, and I'm trying to get another one set up. I apologize. So brand new daycare, we would have to have an estimate. You are still qualified as long as you have an approved application for the child and adult care food program. And probably you and I just need to have a conversation about what a reasonable amount of meals are that you would be serving in a year, and we will have to give you an estimate. So when you go to fill out an application, there won't be a dollar amount on your budget page. It'll show 0 as your estimated budget, but I can override that. We'll just need to have a conversation.
Wendy, I'm wondering if also you want to share a little bit about the independent sponsor versus working with a sponsor or working with MDE as an independent sponsor and
Sure.
eligibility.
Sure, that's a good point. So we only have the ability to pay entities that are registered as fiscal agents with the state of Michigan. So if you do not participate in a federal child nutrition program directly, for example, if you are a center, an unaffiliated center that participates under a sponsor like the Association for Child Development, I know Denise is here, so I'm going to pick on her. You would need to participate through your sponsor. So if you receive meal reimbursement for a child nutrition program directly from the state of Michigan, it would come from the Department of Treasury or Technology Management and Budget. Then you are a fiscal agent with the state of Michigan, and we can reimburse you directly with state aid funds for 10 cents a meal. If you participate through another sponsor, so you get payments for your food program through a sponsor like the Association for Child Development, there are, multiple other Gleaners or the Food Bank of Eastern Michigan, those kinds of sponsors. You would need to work with your sponsor in order to participate in the 10 cents a meal program. We did a pilot last year with our friends at ACD, and we are working to expand that to other sponsors of unaffiliated centers But there's nothing in the legislation that allows us to make direct payments to anyone who doesn't already have a relationship with us for a food program. And then I see a couple of questions here. There is nothing about capacity, there's nothing in the calculation or eligibility for this program that has to do with your capacity or your enrollment. It is literally the meals that you served last year times 10 cents. So we have that data because we reimbursed all of that federal reimbursement comes through MDE. So we know how many meals you claimed in summer or how many meals you claimed in CACFP, National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. So that number of meals times 10 cents by legislation, right? That's what the law says. 10 cents is the maximum grant. But yes, the same way for a school district that has not participated in this program, we have your federal meal counts for any federal child nutrition program that you participate in. So if you're a new school, which does happen occasionally that there's a new school district, and so if you're a new school district, same answer, that I gave about the child care center, we would have to have a conversation, but we can come up with a reasonable estimate.
Thanks, Wendy. And if you need a couple minutes to try to get the application live and working, we can talk about resources real quick. Does that sound good?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I have a new login, but I want to test it before I show you all our barriers live. And
Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit and be flexible with the schedule so Wendy can get that application demo up and live for us. I'm sure that we're all really excited to see that. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the resources. And so because the application isn't live yet and we need some screenshots to develop guides and we need to check out the application to see what kinds of questions would come up, we don't have those resources completed and ready for you, but I do want to make sure that you know where you will be able to find those once we have them. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So where to find them? So what you see on your screen now is a screenshot of the 10 cents a meal website. Now you see where this beautiful painting that's actually a sign from Drew Farms is located. This is a sliding like highlights reel. And so when we have that page that has all of the resources available and the link to the application, all of the information that you will need to apply, to learn and get your questions answered or who to contact, all of that information, you will be able to click something right in the center here where you see the Drew Farms one, and it'll say something like application resources, and you will just click that and it'll take you to the page. I'm going to share my screen real quick again to show you an example of what that page will look like. So bear with me just a second. Okay. All right, so you should now be able to see a page that says 10 cents grant application information. So this is actually the same page that we had last year. It's not updated yet, so don't go looking for it on our website because you're not going to be able to find it. But I do want to make sure that you know the kinds of layout that it'll be so that, and the resources that'll be there. So it'll be similar to this. It'll have all of your information there, the deadline, information, if available. You'll have resources that you can click on and it'll open. So question and answers, a screenshot guide that'll show you how to actually access the system where the application is, frequently asked questions, that kind of thing, as well as trainings. And then let me admit somebody. We'll also have a button here that will say apply now, where you'll click that and it can reroute you to the correct area on MDE's website or the Nexus system. So that's just a quick rundown. Again, this is not there yet, but once we have it for you, it'll be available right from that homepage of the 10 cents a meal website. So let me stop this.
Melanie, will you, while you're there, will you show the link to the training also?
Absolutely.
I'm ready to go, but since you're there, let's do that first, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. So we also have a training that MDE has put together. It's an interactive training. Wendy, do you want to talk a little bit more about it? And I'll just
Sure.
scroll around.
Sure. If you want to just click the start course at the top, then you'll be able to have that side scroll bar. So this is similar to the training programs that we're using for a lot of our other child nutrition programs. There are what I like to call chapters. You can see, you can click on any of those items on the toolbar on the side, and it takes you to a new section of it. It talks about the actual timeline, the record keeping, the invoicing, some sourcing information for Michigan produce. There's a couple little quick drag and click kind of quiz kind of things. You can flip over those to see the programs. And so this resource is available to anybody at any time. So even halfway through the program year, if you wanted to go back and look and say, hey, what is that one rule, or actually read the legislation itself is linked here. The link to the template form that you need to use for uploads, all of those kinds of things are all connected through this training. At the end of it, there is a quiz, and you can take the quiz as many times as you need. There are 10 questions. You need to have an 80%, so 8 out of 10 of those questions passed in order to pass the quiz. And then you need to have that quiz completed as one of the requirements for your application. But you can take the quiz as many times as you need to in order to get to the 80%. So we just want to make sure that people, anybody who's participating in the program and who's submitting invoices, has this very basic overview of what qualifies and how do you proceed and why do I have to do surveys and those kinds of things. So you can access this training right now. You can take it right now, collect your documentation, and then that's one of the steps of your application process that you can have already done and handled by the time we get this application available to you. Are there questions about the training or resources? I'm ready to do the demo. I got my problem fixed, but if anybody has questions about resources or training.
I have a question. I just jumped on a little late. Is this the same training as it was last time? Or is this like more of an updated training application?
So the application is completely, do you mean this training that's on Melanie's screen right now?
So I guess both. I did a training last year for 10-cent meals, and then I did the application last year as well. So I guess my first question is, every year we have to do an application and training?
Correct. Every
Okay,
year you have
okay.
to do an application because it is state grant money, and so you have to actually apply for
Sure.
it
Okay.
annually. And
Okay.
then the training is only a little bit different than it was last year, but this training
Okay,
was
sure.
only available about halfway through the year. So there are
Okay.
lots of grantees who
Okay.
never saw this. And this has a few updates.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yes, it
And
really
then-
is a 15-minute thing. So it's not a huge requirement.
Okay, perfect. And then you might be getting into this, but my next question would be resources. So last year, I'm from the Battle Creek area as well as my center, and we kind of struggled finding places where we could get all the information from. Is there any type of way that there's some type of like sheet, and like I said, you might be getting to this, where like we can reach out to these places and kind of get what we need from them? We'd love to use this program. It was just really tough for us because just where we're located, there wasn't much to be able to like reach out to. We do have a place next to us, but a lot of their products unfortunately didn't actually come from Michigan. Some did, but some didn't, so it kind of varied.
That is a struggle across the board.
Okay.
This legislation was written without very much consultation with people who actually distribute food and move food in Michigan. And so, a food hub or a food co-op or a farmer's market is much closer to the farmer, and they're much better able to, connect you to the actual name of the farm. And we have some great partners. There are some great lists. We would be happy to help you with, sourcing for farmers directly in your area.
Okay.
There also are some options with some of our, larger specialty produce providers. There are some grocery stores who do a pretty good job of labeling.
Okay.
So we absolutely can put you in touch with some. And
Okay, yeah,
remember
that'd be
that
super.
Michigan grown counts. And so if you buy a bag of potatoes at Kroger that has a name of a Michigan farm on it, that would qualify, right?
Oh, okay. I guess
Many
I just,
grocery stores don't do a very good job
right,
of that
sure.
kind of labeling.
Okay,
But,
yeah. Okay,
But yes,
yeah.
we can put you in touch with some resources. There
Okay.
are some of our resources and sourcing information here available in that chapter in the training.
Okay,
And then
perfect.
if you contact us directly, we'll get you some, some more local things.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Wendy, do you want to go ahead and start the walkthrough?
Yes.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop my share so that you can go ahead and do that.
Thanks everybody for your patience. So, our 10 cents a meal application for the first time ever is being hosted in the grant management system that MDE has shifted to in the last 24 to 36 months. So if you are participating in a federal child nutrition program this last cycle, you would have finally, at least for the first time, seen Nexus as our grant management system, and you would be probably working on this coordinated application. So 10 cents a meal is far easier than that, and you're already experts because you've already done the complicated coordinated application. So in the training and also in our resources, the preliminary steps for getting authenticated as a user, how you link your old authentication, all of those things are all available. I can help you with those directly, but I'm not going to go through user access today because there's a lot of steps in a lot of scenarios. But if you've already completed a coordinated application or any other federal child nutrition program application in Nexus, that part of it will be already completed for you. So I'm logged in as a test AO. And so I'm going to click under my opportunities, this 10 cents a meal for Michigan's Kids and Farms application. And I am Genesee ISD. Our, we just set up testing accounts. So once the application opens, all of our applications look like this. They have this taskbar across the top that shows the steps in the process flow. And only a few of these steps are steps that are in your hands, if you say, and then most of them are more administrative and reviewable kinds of things. So at the very top, there are links to training materials, and then you can search for a new application, those kinds of things. Down this left toolbar is, just like, many other modern applications, we're finally in the modern age at MDE, has sort of the path and the task and the links to the things that you want to do. So all of these are links and all of these are pages within the application. And, commonly people start at the very top and work their way through the pages. It's not necessary to do that, but I'm going to do that for the process of our demo. So we're going to open the cover page of this application. This has some information about the grant, how it's funded, where the questions can go. It talks about so I am Genesee ISD today, so this is my address. And then I am required to put in a contact person, and it will only have the people who are associated in Nexus to this agency. So I'm going to put in test AO, and then I'm going to save, and it's going to populate with what it knows my address and zip code and things to be. So I work at 123 Main Street, etc. Here's my email address. So these things auto-populate. If there are errors, we need to work with the Nexus system, and these come from EEM, so the Educational Entity Master, which we can't change. If you have errors and issues here, get a hold of me and I'll help you fix them. The application is currently set. So I got this error because I saved it and I didn't fill in this other mandatory field, the secondary contact person. currently the application is set to not allow the contacts to be the same. That is one of the changes that we've requested, because we know that especially some of our early child care centers and some of our really small institutions only have one contact person. So I'm finished with this page for today because I don't have a secondary contact person. And you can see here on the side taskbar that there's an exclamation point, kind of, that's supposed to be an exclamation point, that shows that that page is not complete. It still has an error, but I did save it. So I'm going to move on to the next page. This is also not there, but there will be the list of assurances and certifications. It talks about all of the regulations and the rules for the page, and you have to actually read and save this page in order to proceed with your application. So I've read all of those assurances and I've saved the page, and so now I have the checkbox that this page is complete. Same thing with important information. That has links and resources on it. Those won't be there until the application's live either, but it's the same thing. You save, read the things and save. So then we get to the first actual page that requires action from you. So this is a standard part of all of our grants. And because there is no alternative to applying now, some of our grants have delay funding or, other alternatives. But because apply now is the only option, that's the only thing that you see on this page. And again, you just save it. And now that page is complete as well. Sponsor information and contact information. This loads your entity information from EEM again. So this is the official address for my Genesee ISD. Last year's enrollment number is 802. I would put in contact information. Here's where the award eligibility is. So Genesee ISD is eligible for $13,708.10, which is the total meals served last year in federal child nutrition programs times 10 cents. Their enrollment is 802, and their free and reduced percentage is 56.61. So I'm going to certify that this data is complete and correct and save the page. It'll give me an error because I didn't put a contact name in there, but. So if at any time the page doesn't save or you have errors, they're broadcast here. Probably they're too tiny for you to be able to see them. Let me make it a little bit bigger. And it says the main contact name must be provided, the phone must be provided. So it tells you what the error is. And if I click on that error, it takes me to that box, to the field that needs to be amended. I'm not going to take the time to fill these things in right here, but if I filled those in and hit save, then these errors would clear and this would have the check box. We'll move on to the program information page. So this is really the meat of your application. This is the part where you talk about what your plans are and what you want to do. It's possible to do part of these questions, save this page, go consult with your friends and your partners, and then come back and complete this page later. All of the ways that you market or plan to market locally grown fruits and vegetables and legumes. So the way that you market or plan to market the program to students and to the community. So I can check all of the boxes that apply to my marketing plans. And then if I have an other, then I have to also have text here that supports whatever other idea I have. Check all the outcomes that my education activities will meet. Then I have to have a description here. I'm going to leave this one blank so that we can see that error happen, but there's also a description here. These boxes both have 5,000 characters, so that's, quite a lot of space to write your planning. Did I serve local produce in 2001, 2002, 22, excuse me? All the methods I'm using to procure. So micro purchasing, direct from a farm, maybe, from a food hub. And then a description of my partners. Any other resources that I utilize or plan to call upon to assist me with my reporting activities. So maybe I have a mentor. or a previous grantee, or maybe Melanie and Wendy are going to help me, or whatever my plan is for technical assistance for invoicing or for finding the names of the farm location. This could be a food hub or my produce distributor, anybody, because like was already mentioned, finding the actual name and county of the farm and doing the manipulation of the upload of spreadsheet has, been difficult in the past. We produce a legislative report annually as required. So we report on all of the outcomes of the program to the legislators who fund us. And so we use the very thoughtful answers from this, what would 10 cents a meal funding mean to your district? To answer that question back to the legislators about the impacts that really has made in your community. And then if I want any follow-up support, so I am not able to find a local farm to work with, I'm going to put that I would like some follow-up with sourcing. So I intentionally left a couple of those fields blank so that we would see the errors that are going to happen. So let's say I just didn't know the answers to those questions, but I want to save my work so far. I'm going to save this page. And it's going to tell me funding meaning is required and please complete this text box. So here's the funding meaning, it's highlighted in red. And then if I go to this please complete text box, this is the other question that I intentionally didn't answer. But let's say I need to go talk to my school business office or to another food service director or something in order to answer those questions. Perfectly fine. We'll move on to the next page. Next time I log in, I'll see that these are the pages that still need me to go back and address. So here's the upload of training documentation. So once you finish that training, you would have just a screenshot of the 100% on your quiz or the 80% on your quiz. And then you can just put your document here. So I am going to just pick an item. So I pulled this file. This is my screenshot, we'll pretend, and it's already here. So that quickly our system is able to upload this file that's the screenshot. And it won't let me save this page. Well, let me save the page, but it won't let me complete this page without the title for this document. So I'm just going to say this is my Wendy training document. Save the page again. So as you get those errors, the system does a really good job of telling you what's missing or telling you what you did wrong. You can always move on. So if you're really stuck on something and you need to, get a hold of me for some support, you can always move on to the next page and do the next thing while you're waiting to go back to that. So the way that the budget pages work, because we have a single budget item, you're requesting funds for a single purpose, right? To purchase qualifying produce. We're forced to use this much more complicated budget system that we don't really need because we only have a single item. So if I go to budget summary first, there's nothing there. I mean, the page is there, but there isn't any information. There are all of these, maybe in a minute when it loads. There we go. All of the project number, all of the information, all of the totals are all blank. So opposite of what you would intuitively think, you actually have to enter a budget item first. Once we enter this budget item and save it, then it will populate that budget summary page. And I have begged to have those listed on the sidebar in different order, and I have been denied. So this is a matching grant. The district agrees to purchase local produce at least minimum twice of the amount of the grant awarded. The only appropriate function code for this item is other support services. This is the only thing you can choose. The amount of local purchases that you estimate that you purchased in the previous school year, you put here. This is an estimate. You should absolutely not spend more than 10 minutes calling somebody and finding out this number. I do not need it to the penny. I don't need anybody to do a lot of extra work. This is just meant, we also use this for our legislative report to sort of demonstrate some of the growth of the program. So Genesee ISD, I'm saying last year I purchased $5,000 worth of produce. This year, you know, life is getting more back to normal, and I have more students and I have more capacity to work with local farms. So I'm guessing that I'm going to spend $10,000 on local produce this year instead, right? It's that easy. It doesn't need to be to the penny. You don't need to, you know, do a research study. This is a general idea. So then you must have a specific description for this budget item, and, you know, it's produce. And I tried really hard to have that auto-populated also, because the only thing that you can buy with this grant is Michigan grown fruits, vegetables, and dry beans. But you have to have something in this field or you'll get an error. This number is the number, again, of your grant. So I requested $10,000 here. I'm gonna save this just for a minute and go back, because I don't remember the amount of the award that I'm eligible for. My sponsor information page, it told me and I already forgot. So I'm going to go back and look.
I think it was 13,000.
Yep, you're right. Thank you. You have a much better memory than I. So $13,000. So I can say I want to apply for $10,000 or $13,000, not to exceed whatever that 13 point something was.
Yep.
So,
13,708.
yep, I'm going to put, we can do that. Let's do the full amount. We'll put in 13,708. And then you save this page. So even though you have to say the same thing several times, you have to say things that are kind of unnecessary. It's what the system requires. So then we go back to the budget summary, and that 13,708 will be there. It's thinking. And there it is. I'm not going to do this. It's a whole bunch of nonsense for the number that we already had on the previous page. Sorry about that. There are no attachments required, but should you want to give me an attachment, or should you email me something that needs to be attached to your application, this is where you would put in an application or an attachment. This is where I would put in an attachment, and that's it. So now we're going to submit the application, and it won't submit because we have errors, right? So we don't have all of these things filled in, but once you have check boxes all along here, you won't need a checkbox for attachments. This tool will take you back to your landing page. This is how a higher level person could give someone access to your application. Status history is where it shows the steps that your application have been through. So this application has only been application in process. It hasn't been through any of these other stages of application. Any attachments all hang out here. Summary of your modification, any notes, those kinds of things. So your status change options are either to cancel this application or to submit it. So we're going to submit. It won't let me because it's not ready, but it says select these forms to navigate and make changes. So it's saying I need to fix these 5 pages before I can submit my application. Once I do that, then the option will be here to submit the application. There's a statement that says, you know, I told the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And then you'll be able to submit the application. It'll show up in application submitted status. I'll review it. If modifications are required, the system sends an email to you, at the email address that you entered in here that says, hey, Wendy wants you to, put more text to answer number 7 or something like that. Then once it's approved, the status is called grant funds available, but we don't pay grant funds through Nexus like some of our other education grants are. So the payment process doesn't change. You'll submit your invoice data in the system and we'll send you a state aid payment. That was a whole lot. Questions? Another page that you would like me to go back to? It's all going to be much clearer when you have screenshots to follow along.
Wendy, we do have a question from Carrie who's asking if they will be able to create like a PDF of the program info or even of this application to share within the organization, their own organization.
That is a theoretical, it's supposed to be available for all of our applications, but I have not seen it. So let me see. Include all. I don't know. Let's find out together. You should be able to create a PDF of all of it or even just the pages that you want. It's thinking about it. You have another question or about anything while we're waiting for that to think?
Yeah, we have another one. So Katie's asking, what is the deadline of the application?
Well, that depends on whether it actually goes live in the next week or so. We generally give 3 or so weeks for people to complete the application. I expect to see this live next week. I've been lied to before, but from the day that we publish it, it would probably be approximately 3 weeks. If you have a hardship or a specific situation that makes that not possible for you, we do have the ability to be flexible. The problem is once we have a list of grantees and awardees, there's a lot of fiscal paperwork that has to happen and they all have to sort of be put through at the same time. So, if there's an issue with meeting the deadline, please be in touch with me or with Melanie or Amanda, and we'll see what we can do. But we like to, get everybody done at once so that we can process those awards all at once.
So Wendy, while it's still thinking, we have another question in the chat. So Pat's asking, what are the main reasons that schools or childcare centers do not apply for 10 cents a meal?
Well, in the past, the reporting was complicated. It seems really overwhelming to go find a local farm to work with. But what we actually know is, especially for schools, you're already buying a lot of Michigan produce. Gordon Food Service sources a lot of Michigan produce. All of the commodity sliced apples that you get come from Michigan. So I think that, we've not had the staff to support people in, in training and supporting some of the sourcing questions and the invoicing questions. So that's been a big barrier. Food service directors have had a lot of other really big things to worry about for the last few years, right? The USDA changed their mind every 6 months for a few years about how to feed kids. We talked to food service directors even recently that are, really having problems getting the supplies that they need to feed kids. And so don't have the capacity to do one more thing. So, it kind of depends on how quote unquote normal things are this year for people. I mean, the supply chain issues are leveling out. The USDA has thrown a ton of money at helping with those supply chain problems, but they're still there. I'd love to hear from you guys. Why? I mean,
I wondered if and I should tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a registered dietitian. I'm retired. One of my very first jobs in my career was as a food service director over a hospital system. So I have experience from that end. And then I have overseen women and children programs in a few different settings. I'm also a certified diabetes care and education specialist. So Spectrum at some point leased me out to a federally qualified healthcare system in Grand Rapids. So I've worked in primary care for the majority of my career with underserved and all of that. And now that I'm retired, and it happened during COVID, so I got a little bored with too much online stuff. So now I'm a substitute grade school teacher. So now I have gotten to see firsthand some of those crap meals, and I'm outraged. I'm like outraged, and so I think they perceive that there's going to be a lot more work, and they don't have the staff or the money or the space to store fresh produce. It might go bad. They're worried the kids won't like it. It's just easier to hand them Pop-Tarts and a thing of applesauce and juice for breakfast, and breaded corn dog pieces for lunch. And yeah, it's a sad thing. So I just wonder how much of that is, just they're thinking it's just not going to be, it's going to be too costly, and they won't have the space. They won't have the ability to process this produce.
It's much more the processing, right? So remember that schools and school food service have been underfunded for decades, right?
Mhm.
So in the last 2 years, we've seen some change to that because there's been so much more federal pandemic money, but then schools lost all their staff, right? Lots and lots and lots of people chose to retire or find new careers, in the last couple of years. So it's not so much the schools wish as they just either don't have equipment. Schools are built these days with no kitchen. Like there are lots and lots of schools in Michigan that don't have kitchens. Even schools that do have kitchens have 30-year-old equipment that there's never been funding to support, and there's no staff. So, it's a wide variety of things. There are some school districts that are figuring out how to make it work. There are some school districts who can get bushels of raw produce fresh from the farm and process it. Some schools have to buy already washed, diced, frozen, packaged produce, which also qualifies for this grant. It's just a matter of each individual grantee has their own barriers and their own needs. And, we're doing our best to find partners and resources for those things.
I don't think I was aware, and so I'm guessing, so I haven't been able to, if it comes up in conversation, because I think my perception was like more like fresh, like that they could purchase Michigan produce from Gordon Food or from Van Erden's, and that, so it didn't have to directly come from a farm. So that's good to know. So
yeah, and food hubs and farmers markets and all kinds of things. So there are lots of easier ways than 10 new procurement contracts with 10 local farms, right? There are all kinds of places in Michigan that, don't have very much produce grown, right? They're growing food crops, or they're, raising cattle or something in that region, and not so much having fruit and vegetables. So yeah. And frozen vegetables, there's a lot of resources for frozen fruits and vegetables.
I would think there'd be some point people at like Gordon Food and Van Erden's, some of these food companies here in Michigan that deal with Michigan produce, that would be helping promote this, helping yeah. Okay.
Yep, we have partners in all of those places. We absolutely do.
Okay, good.
How are we doing for time, Melanie? Do we have some more questions?
I think we do, but I do believe that we need to start wrapping up. So thank you, Pat, for sharing those thoughts. And, like Wendy was saying, there's a lot of different barriers that all of the potential grantees face, and they're all doing their best. And I think I can speak for all of us who work on helping to implement 10 cents, and saying that that's a focus of this year, of trying to streamline and make it easier and provide resources and help people be successful as they're working to implement the program. Wendy, did you find that printout?
Yep, it's right here. So I went back and told it to only print 3 pages for me because it was thinking too hard. And so here are the pages. So the cover page, the assurances page, and the important information page are right here in PDF form. So yes, it can be done. I don't know if you can do it all at once or if you'll have to do it in sections. It might just be that my system couldn't think that hard, but yes, it is printable.
Thanks,
I was
Wendy.
gonna say really quick before we wrap up, just that, so as the policy and engagement and specialist here, I'll definitely be seeking a lot of input from you all. So please be on the lookout in the future, because we want to know if this is your first year in the program, why, if this is your second year, why, or if you've not thought about it before or not had the resources before. It's really important to us in the implementation of this that we know what those challenges are. So Patricia, again, thank you for bringing that up, because I would like to just say from our end of things, we will be engaging with you guys a lot more to get a better understanding of what implementation looks like for you and how we can support you in making that a little bit easier. So keep your feedback. I will definitely be reaching out.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I want to wrap up real quickly. So I just wanted to share, and it was already put in the chat, but there is actually a new 2020-2021 evaluation report for 10 cents a meal. And there are also some upcoming webinars from our friends at the Center for Regional Food Systems who provide the evaluation support for 10 cents a meal. So it is available on the Center for Regional Food Systems website, and it can be read either as one large report, or there's also a series of summaries that cover a variety of topics. There will also be a 5-part mini webinar series coming up in February to highlight the key findings from this evaluation program. The first webinar will be on February 1st at 2 p.m. and will continue every Wednesday through March 1st. There will be registration information coming soon, so keep an eye out. We will also be sharing that in the 10 cents a meal newsletter. So if you are not signed up for the newsletter, please make sure that you are. I will send a follow-up email that will have more of this information available. Sign up for the newsletter, any pertinent points that we talk about in this webinar. And let me go ahead, and we did questions. Okay, this is important. This is the post-evaluation survey. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat right now. So in this survey, we're asking you a couple things. We're asking you when you want to meet for more 10 cents a meal network meetings, what time works best for you. These are really supposed to be for the community and helping understand more about 10 cents a meal, providing resources and information. So please fill that out. There's also opportunities to write in there about what kind of resources would be helpful for you. So please fill out that survey. Again, it is in the chat box. You should be able to access it now, and I'll also include it in that follow-up email. All right, we have some contact information. I will also include that, and I will, I'll create a PDF of this PowerPoint and I will send that out as well to everybody. So I do want to be mindful of time. If you do have any questions, feel free to save them and respond back. Contact anybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your questions and your attention. We are really looking forward to this application coming out, and thank you so much for Wendy for walking us through it and showing us the different steps and what is to come. So thanks everybody, and have a great day.